Crispin Day, my boy, how's it going?
What's up?
It's been a long time. Listen to the folks at home here. This is a tragic story, but it has a good ending. So we'll see, knock on wood.
Yeah.
We were here a couple months ago and we had an SD card problem that we thought we could solve, but now we have to come back and I got to hear your boring spiel all over again.
Yeah.
And see your crappy gear.
Garbage, really.
I appreciate it though, like, because you knew we were coming back, you decided to buy yourself Barefoots.
Yeah.
Got another distressor.
Yeah, just for you guys.
I really appreciate that. It is funny though, like every time I go back to a studio or I text an engineer like a couple months later, he's telling me about all the new stuff he's got. Like, turnover rate is incredible.
Just a bunch of nerds, man.
So I do remember when we talked about, and one of the things I really want to focus on is we're here on your property. You own this house. We're in East End of West End of Toronto.
West End, yeah.
And this came down this corridor. I'm sure we have B-roll into your backyard. We're now in this building, and you know I was blowing smoke last time, but this is the truth. I love this place. This is my dream studio. I love the couch. I love the space is big enough for a drum kit, but it's also cozy.
Yeah, it's my dream too, man.
Yeah, I bet it is. And I want to ask you about what it was like when you found this place and what made you decide to start a studio on your property as opposed to a commercial space somewhere else. And I want to ask you about the undertaking of this because I think this is very relevant to I have a friend who bought a house and has a coach house in the back, is doing the same thing. I think there's a lot of people who would like to turn their garage or shed into a studio. So tell me about how you found this and the undertaking of turning it into this beautiful place.
Well, I actually looked at probably like 40 or 50 houses before finding this one. But this was previously a garage, and I had always dreamed of having a studio on the property. I've been working out of a bedroom for like way too long. I wanted to have somewhere that was close enough that I could get to work without, without thinking, like if I had to make a mix revision, I could just pop out. If I had to cut a quick vocal, I could just pop out. But it was still separate enough that I could live my own life and really feel like I was going to work. Yeah. And I've worked out of different little production studios and things in the city, and I just find that in the modern landscape of making records, you don't really need massive studios for everyday work. Right. I do 95% of my work in a space like this. Yeah. So I decided, like, why not? Yeah. Like, I can do guitars, I can do all my overdubs, I can do production stuff, I can program everything, I can cut vocals, and you really don't need more than this. So I definitely decided to do it with the most modern approach I could. Right. Like, this is the modern way of producing records, to me at least. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it really has a place for the big studios too. If you want to do grand piano or you want to do a big drum sound,
it's still cheaper to rent stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I'd rather book a day to do drums and then do the rest in a comfortable environment like this than like feel the pressure and feel that burn of being on the clock at a big studio.
Yeah, totally. So were you looking for a house and a place for a studio? What was the priority? Was it finding a good studio?
Well, it's sort of a sidetrack, I guess, but it was all part of an investment plan. Oh, okay. This way I'm not really, my overhead's pretty low, and it takes the pressure out of producing music. That's completely, like, my overhead's so low that...
That's such an interesting thing, too,
I can casually, I budget projects to be like, this is what's going to cost for the song. The studio is unlimited time until we're comfortably... until we're comfortable with everything that's happened, we're ready to send it to mix. There's no time crunch. It's just like, let's just go. Yeah. If we want to do 4 hours that day, that's fine. Yeah. 6 hours, that's fine.
That's really smart. And you don't think of that, but that's one of the advantages of the home studio is that it is in your home and you don't have to pay the rent.
Totally, yeah.
So I love this room. I love the wood. I love the lighting that you've got. And I know that you do have a bit of a car space still, right?
Yeah, there's like a slab my car's parked on.
Okay, so what was this like? Like, what type of work did you have to do?
It was a straight up garage. Like, the slab was cracked. Okay. It was like falling apart. We had to repoint all the bricks, but we basically finished the whole structure. Yeah. Repointed all the bricks. I mean, we didn't deal with the floor. But so we repointed all the bricks, we finished the exterior structure and insulated it all. Basically finished that into a livable space. And then we started all over again.
That's incredible.
Framed out the floor, put it on a bed of foam, built the walls on top of that.
Oh, so right now we're on, what, like 2x4s?
You're about a foot up from the floor. So there's like,
No
we basically
way.
we framed out a floor and floated it on shims, and then we got a spray foam truck to come in and spray through all the slats, and then it expanded
Amazing.
to support the floor, and then we built the walls on top of that. They're not touching the exterior wall at all.
Okay, so there's like, so it's kind of like a deck, sort of, right?
Sort of, yeah.
And what is it? Is it like plywood under the floor, or like?
Well, there's
foam.
The foam, then there's the frame, and then there's shit. What would you call it? Just like plywood, but it's made for floor boards. I don't know.
Okay.
But then we put just like a floor on top of that. The main thing though is that the walls are not. They're completely independent of the exterior walls.
Right.
And we put oversized insulation in that. So there's about.
So they're not touching.
8 plus there's 10 inches of Roxol insulation plus double layered oversized drywall with green glue.
Right.
Plus the interior 2 inches of CertainTeed or Owens Corning rigid insulation. Plus the sides are backfilled with Roxol.
So what was that? What was the priority then? Was it to keep noise out or to keep noise from going in? Okay.
Well, I'm set so far back off the property that noise isn't an issue coming from the space, but I don't want to have cars honking, and I don't want to have kids screaming into the, you know.
Is there train tracks around here too?
There are,
yeah.
Like very subtly I can hear it on occasion. But it's like so quiet in here that like you can make it out, but you would never pick it up in a microphone.
Oh, okay.
Never.
Well, that's good. Well, it's a really good, how long did it take you?
To build it?
Yeah.
Probably I'd say 2 months all in. My contractor was here every single day and we just hammered it out.
Wow. That's awesome. It was worth it though, eh?
Totally worth it. My God.
It's so great. And I knew that when we had to come back here, it was a lot to book to get back here, but I wanted to come back here on a nice day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Because the best thing is the fact you can keep a door open. And not only is it like the fact that your noise isn't bothering anyone, but just security purposes, you can have a door open to a studio, yet you're still got like 50 feet of backyard where it's private, and that's a huge advantage.
Totally. I mean, I'm used to working in sealed, like, compartments of buildings and with no natural light and all that stuff, and it's like I get sleepy really easily in those environments. I also feel more pressure, more stress. So I wanted to have it be immediately accessible to outside.
Well, I feel like I would just step outside just to kind of like reset your brain, reset your ears.
I'll play music and stand right out there just to get perspective, because I feel like you get a different perspective with an open room like this as opposed to a single source. Like when the music's coming through my door, I can hear things totally different.
Right, that's great. And we'll do some B-roll, but I know outside you've got a new bathroom. Congratulations on that. That's a necessity. And then you still have the ISO booth there too. That's awesome. And you're getting a lot of use out of that. What's the harm in having electrics in here?
I do these guys, like all these awesome vintage 60s little guys in here, because they are, I feel like you can't copy that stuff, and I need to use those. For loud guitars, I often go to my Kemper Profiler.
Oh, okay.
But if we do want to do loud guitars with an amp, that's when it comes in really handy, because I don't want to have like a 50-watt head driving a bunch of speakers right into my face. And the control, having it isolated like that, I can EQ it properly and really make sure it's going to sit in the mix.
Do you ever do vocals out there or like voiceovers?
I set it up to do that, but I haven't a single time. I don't think I ever will. I prefer to have a singer in here with me.
Yeah, it would be a little isolating for them, I think.
Yeah. It's kind of so well insulated that it's kind of creepy locking a singer in there.
That's cool. I remember asking you this last time, but really briefly, how did you get into producing and engineering and doing your own thing?
Like my story line.
Your story. The Crispin Day. Give us a little preview of what your book will be like.
I went to school. I never graduated at Metalworks. And then I ended up interning with Gavin Brown right out of school. And then did that for 3 months or so. David Mahashi over there is like awesome. And he was kind of a mentor to me at first. And then from there I went to a studio in Vaughan called DNA Recording Facility, which has since dissolved, I think. Oh, no, now it's called Laser Sound. Okay. Pretty cool space. Did that for about 3 months, and then I ended up with this music collective and recording studio called Dreamhouse. Oh, right. Which is still kicking. Yeah. And I was there interning for about 6 months. They had no jobs. Yeah. But I just couldn't let myself walk out the door.
Right.
I just stuck around for 6 months. I was there probably 6-7 days a week.
Wow. Did you have another job?
No, I had like saved and was just like
That's awesome.
making it work. I was so poor.
That's
awesome. But eventually they took a risk and found a way to bring me on as staff.
Wow.
And I created a job
Good for
basically
you.
that didn't exist before. And over the course of another year and a half, I guess, I worked there and built the studio up and did whatever I could to contribute. And at some point, I decided I had to go freelance.
Yeah.
Just for the trajectory of where I wanted my career to go. I couldn't do it as a staffer.
Yeah.
And so I parted ways there, and me and my friend John Drew, who did like Tokyo Police Club, the Arkells,
Yeah.
Fucked Up, all that stuff. And then Tom Darcy, he's like an amazing songwriter.
Right.
The three of us were kind of at brunch one day, and a space came up on Kijiji, which was previously Wellesley Street Sound.
Okay.
I guess it was a big thing in the 80s.
Yeah.
They did a bunch of pop stuff. And so it came up for lease. And we went over there from brunch. Like within 10 minutes of seeing the listing, we popped over there and they signed a lease within a week.
No way.
And that is now called Tourist Recording.
Right,
Which
okay,
is
yeah.
one of my favorite spaces in the city for
That's
sure.
awesome. And they're still going.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so then you just thought, I want to go out on my own, want to work at home.
I always kind of wanted to have, at some point I realized to make art better, you have to have a space conducive to making it on your own terms.
Right.
So I had been doing that out of a bedroom for way too
Right.
long, and
Yeah.
things just never sounded right. I had a lot of issues in the place I was working. And so I knew I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And now that it's here, it's like, yeah,
feel-
literally a dream come true.
It's so great, man. I feel like, I mean, the gear is one thing, but I really do love this space.
Yeah.
And I want my personal studio to be on my own property. Right now I have an attic, and one day we're going to build it out a bit, but there's something about it. And I like what you said too, because you can, put on a pair of pants and go to work.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you can
Pants
be
optional.
2 a.m. You can finish a mix and crawl into bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So-
I'm more on call for the client, which isn't great for my relationship with my girlfriend, but
Yeah.
it's amazing for me to be able to, I don't have to write things on a list.
Yeah.
If someone needs a revision, I'm like, I got a couple minutes, I'll just stroll out there and
Yeah.
do that, send it out, and then go back to dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes workflow, when you have so many projects on the go, the lists just get out of control, so I can just tackle little things here
Right.
and there really fast.
Right. It's great, man. How's the pizza oven? You fired that up this summer?
I haven't used
No?
it.
Okay, let's talk about some of this equipment right here.
Sweet.
All right, well, the big thing that I do really want to talk about, against the rules, we talked about this during the setup, but you got some new Barefoots here. And I remember you had talked about it last time,
Yep.
that you were going to get them. But you also praised the Amphions like crazy.
Yeah. They're
So-
two different brains to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, explain the two. We got to hear it, luckily, but...
Well, I'm slightly confused lately because the Barefoots do sound so good that I would love to kind of rough a mix in, but the Amphions, like the only word I can think of with them is mid-range.
Mid-range.
There's so much mid-range clarity and
Yeah.
like depth, and like I feel like that's where your mix kind of sits, because that's what's going to translate between
Right.
all things.
Right.
And
Yeah.
our ears are tuned to mid-rangey stuff, so we can hear more detail in it, and the Amphions represent that sort of frequency range so well. It's so easy to like balance things and
Right.
know if things are sitting right, whereas the Barefoots are like just fun.
So there's an advantage to having a non-pleasing sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost.
That's the same mentality as NS10s.
Right,
You know,
right.
they're not particularly good sounding speakers, but if you can get them to sound good on NS10s, you're probably going to be okay everywhere else.
Right. And so the ideal is that you're listening to it, you get it sounding great there, and then you take it out to the car and whatnot.
Like I've read a couple of things on the Amphions, and some people have said that the white thing is like them paying homage to the NS10 because
Oh.
they're very similar in
Oh, okay.
the same brain that looks at NS10s and says they make sense would probably look at Amphions and say they make sense because they're so mid-forward.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so the new Barefoots come in, those are kind of just like an exciting
They're like hypey. I mean, I don't even know if they're hypey. They just like are a lot of fun. There's like tons of top end, like stereo width. I mean, you can hear depth and everything too. So part of me thinks you could probably mix pretty well on them.
But you still mix on these?
I just trust them more.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
I guess I monitor my low end a little bit more on the Barefoots because I think they go down a little
And are
further.
you just bouncing back and forth during a mix, or for the most part you hang out with these?
If I was going straight into mix mode, I'd go straight to the Amphions because they do take a second for my ears to adjust to.
Right.
But then once you adjust to the Amphions, I feel like they're like part of your brain. It's very strange.
Are these like primarily for clients then? Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. And also like I do some production stuff, so if I'm trying to get excited about stuff, I like to turn stuff up a little bit, and like if I'm doing some synth or guitar parts or whatever, I'll just crank it up and be over here like playing something.
It's funny, it's not the first time that we've talked to studios who say that they have one pair, like an NS10 for mixing, and they have something that the clients need to understand. They need to feel like they're driving in their car listening to the radio.
Well, I don't know what it is about the Amphions. I feel like they're delicate, so I don't like... They're also so mid-forward and so clear that you can work at extremely low volumes.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't handle the
so when I start
so loud,
when I start pushing them, I get weird about it. I don't know. So these guys, I crank them up and it's just fun and cool. I don't feel stressed about it because they're like crazy powerful and
and so these are called Footprint 01s.
Yep.
And they just came out like at NAMM, or when did these come out? Like
super recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like reasonably affordable in the Barefoot range. And I think I have heard some amazing things about them, which is cool. It's cool that like a company, you know, Barefoot kind of rose to essentially to the top pretty quickly, and for them to have something that is no compromise. Yeah. But it's, you know,
it's like
still affordable.
Trying to push it into the consumer, like so the average guy can consider buying them, or even though like what's it called? Emerging producer. Can think about getting to that like top level monitoring situation. They're a great option. I really think they are.
How does it make sense that you have a speaker out here like bashing against that?
I worried about that because there's side firing drivers. But I looked it up and it's like, as long as you have about whatever, an inch or something, I should look more into it. But like I said, when I get into mix, I'm paying more attention to detail on the Amphions. These guys are a lot of fun. I don't think there's a problem with the low end like that. The drivers don't like fucking explode out of the speaker, so
it's so cool.
Okay,
so let's get down to the gear here. So Vintech, I mean, I know a lot about these. Well, I don't know a lot about these guys, but my buddy has a 473, and he raves about it as far as the Neve sound and then the shelves that it comes with. So talk to me about why you love these. This is essentially a 1073?
Essentially, yeah. They keep it really close and it has the same tonality and character, I think.
We were just talking to Union about how crazy the off button is there in the middle. But anyway, go on.
And it's also like a lot of gain. Like I have this at 1 sometimes and it's a lot of gain. But everything I put through them just sounds totally usable right away.
And looking at your pre's, we have the Apollo, but we have 2 512s and then these, right? And that's it?
These guys are a little cleaner. Like if I'm recording, like yesterday I was recording a Jupiter 8, an actual one. And I put them through the API because it just felt, my brain was like, put it through the API because it's cleaner, I guess. These guys are pretty woolly and warm and awesome. I do all my vocals through them and it got character, so.
No, that's kind of cool. And so, like, but would you do your electrics in here or like both?
Electric guitars, I mean, that's a to-taste thing. Definitely that. I do like these are awesome on drums, kick, snare, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, the other studio, Taurus, I work out of has 8 of the X81. So an extra mid-range. They're awesome preamps. They're just so usable. And they really are close to the Neve style and don't break the bank, but they are not cheap.
I love it. I really, that's true. They're not. And I mean, the 473 my buddy has, I think it's, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 new. And
I think these guys are about 2,500, 2,600 each plus the power supply. But you can run 4 of them off the power supply. So.
That's right. What goes here?
The awesomest.
We can superimpose anything if you want.
Can you like get some CGI going?
Sure, we have that.
It's the Chandler Red 47 preamp.
Oh, wow.
Which is like an EMI thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I've seen that.
Straight preamp with like a low cut like filter on it.
Okay.
Or a high pass, I guess. And
that's an expensive piece, I've noticed too.
It is pricey.
That new like line of their mic that they made, all of their stuff is
the
insane.
R126 or 124
compressor they have, yeah.
But it's an awesome preamp that I've recorded a tambourine with, and one of the tubes went down, so it's out with a tech right now.
Oh man, yeah, I was curious, like, what do you got a chance to use it with?
Yeah, well, it comes with JJs and like pretty new school tubes, but I'm getting it. Right now, it's getting RCA new old stock tubes put in it, and it's going to sound way better. And more true to the actual thing. So.
Well, that's cool. And when did you get that? Because that wasn't here last time, was it?
Nope. No, that was probably 2 months ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you have 2 distressors when we talked?
I had one, and it was the EL8, not the EL8X.
What's the difference?
This Brit mod thing that nobody ever uses.
Really? But there's a price difference between the...
There's definitely a price difference, but it's...
And they're harder to come by, even.
These are easier to come by. Well, hard to come by used because they're so awesome and everyone keeps them. So.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine was moving to Nashville and was offloading some of his gear to make the move.
Yeah.
And so I sold mine and bought his pair. They're matched. The serial numbers are consecutive, and it's got all the right cables, and it's totally stereo awesomeness.
Yeah, that's great. I love what you were saying earlier. We were talking about how you tend to start with one of these compressors for vocals, and then you always end up going back to this guy.
Yeah, it hurts because like 1176 retro stay level, beautiful, amazing, insanely expensive. Yeah. Why did I buy it? Also, I love it kind of stuff. But the distressor is just so quick and usable right away that if I'm in a jam and I have to throw a compressor on something, that's like my go-to.
Yeah.
If I have time to get a tone going, then I'll mess with this stuff. But
I feel like a documentary needs to be made on this piece because for being a relatively modern piece,
it's a staple.
It's a staple.
Total.
And you don't see that. I mean, nothing else. I mean, I don't know when that came in, 80s or 90s or something, but like nothing else since then. Most people would say is a staple.
I bet you could probably say like in the 80s, maybe the DBX guys were pretty standard.
True.
But like that, I guess it's the same brain to me that would go for a DBX, would go for a distressor, and would just always win. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's just the way to go.
That's
if you have to buy one compressor, buy a distressor.
So we got another hole up here. Yeah. And this is the Stam Audio.
Stam SA4000.
What do you plan to do with that? Is that just
mix bus?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even the C2 and all those SSL style compressors are kind of cool on overheads sometimes, but I've been leaving my overheads wide open these days. No compression.
Yeah.
But
so
mix bus.
Do you mix with anything? Do you mix with the distressors or the retro at all?
The Mag Airs.
Oh, right. Okay. Individually or in stereo?
Rad. Stereo. I just throw them both in and jack up the 20K a little bit. It's a trick that Mike Keir.
Yeah, I mean, he's raved about those. I know a lot of guys who rave about, and they actually came out with a mastering version, like a 2-channel.
Oh yeah, the rack.
Single rack mount, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 20 and 40K shelving is pretty epic.
That is crazy.
It gives
That's
you
what they call
nice
air, right?
Yeah, the air band. Yeah.
Do you use anything else? Like, do you touch anything else with that, or is it just for that air?
I'll carve out little bits in the mid range. I've been playing with it a bit.
Why don't they just sell a stereo version of the air for cheaper?
They do. I have no idea.
Because I've heard the same thing, that a lot of people just love it for that. I mean, they could honestly sell this unit with just the air band, and people would pay just as much money. It's like really the most useful thing in it. Right. As far as the other EQ stuff, I guess it's doing stuff, but I have other EQs that are better for it. Right. Yeah. So you mix through that. Mm-hmm. So my plan is to go through that into the SSL. Oh, okay. And back and print my mixes and do other bus compression stuff in the box. In the box, yeah. Well, it's kind of cool. We were talking about that earlier about, I would love to do that too. It's like, it's hard to like send a bass out, print it, you know, send a snare out, send different things, and then remember what did you do, or like live with that printed version forever. Totally. And whereas like throwing something on your mix bus, you feel like you're going out making some tweaks, and then you can just make some notes in your Pro Tools of what your mix bus looks like. And totally, you can just take a photo. That's what I usually do. Yeah. I think the stem will be notched
That really helps for recalls.
Yeah.
These guys are notched. That's one of the real upsides to the mags.
Right.
Is they're notched, so you can just sort of put a line on a recall sheet or take a photo and know that you're going to get it exactly where you left it.
That's great.
But I'm a big believer in go get the sound you want at the source.
Yeah.
So when I'm tracking, I usually am fairly aggressive, and once it's in the box, it's kind of what it's going to be. And I don't find myself feeling the urge to print stuff or send stuff through anything afterwards usually.
Man, this is going to be, you're going to feel so complete in your life.
I know.
Hey, once it's all filled up.
Gaps are just killing me.
I would probably, if I were you, I would have printed off a picture just because I'm so OCD
and just stick it in there.
Oh, yeah, I would have. A little 11 by 17 print there. And yeah, just something to look at.
Totally.
I've heard the stuff with the STAM. I mean, they are such a small operation, but
2 guys in Chile.
It takes so long to get that stuff.
Yeah.
But they're doing amazing stuff. I mean, they have a LA3A they're releasing now, and
they have. I think they're working on an 87.
Yeah,
and a couple different microphones.
A 47, a 247. Yeah. That's crazy. Okay, so we've got 1176. What's special about this? You're telling me this is a mod?
Oh yeah, so this 1176 has a new old stock 60s, I think it's UTC input transformer mod. So it's just been swapped out with an old stock 60s transformer and a bunch of capacitors and other nerdy things that I don't know what they do have been swapped with original 60s components.
Because you had a different version of this, right?
Yeah, I did.
And you can feel the difference?
Yes.
Well,
I would say so.
To say yes.
It's a little bit more like the real thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more usable because I go to the 1176 for character. It's not really a utility comp to me.
Right.
Like I push it pretty hard and I get tone out of it.
Do you use these together, or is it one or the other? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I often I'll use both together, but the 1176, I like to push it because it has tone when you push it. It's not a conservative compressor to me. A lot of people don't like 1176s because I feel like they get freaked out by pushing it, but really, to me, the way to use it is to push it.
This guy is so beautiful. I remember the first time I saw one in real life at my friend Jamie's place. I couldn't believe how big it was. Yeah, it's massive. It's bigger than you think. It's like full of weird tubey things. Those are the guts. I mean, there's on the back you can see like all these tubes, and it just feels like the real. Yeah. Like, as a music nerd, what you want to know your things are going through is a million lights and switches and wires, and that's what that feels like. I quizzed Ian just a couple hours ago about how many tubes was in his rack. And he had to guess like upwards of over 40 or 50. Oh, wow. In his rack. Well, yeah, I mean, they've got the Pultex in there. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. The gear's crazy. But this is great. Yeah. So this is for you. What is that for? That is, it's actually a copy of the original Gates stay level. But this company Retro makes a great version of it, and I use it for things like bass, or if I have like a singer, not like somebody who's not too sibilant, like if you're singing. It's good for smoother things like that, I find. And are you pretty subtle with it? I don't know. I don't really do compression subtly. Okay. I just like to see the meters moving. Yeah. So I won't freak out if it's hitting -20 occasionally. Wow. But yeah. Really cool sounding, lots of character, not always the way to go. Right. But when it does work, it really works. Yeah, you've got a good selection for compression. I'm a compression junkie for sure. Like I have more compressors than preamps. Well, that's a segue to your 500s here. Does that, do the DBXs get used much? I probably should use them more, but I just like... I mean, you've got four other great pieces here. Yeah, like I said, they're kind of a similar brain to me as a distressor, and I just end up going there. It's got more options. Have you recorded drums in here, like properly? Yeah. That's kind of why those exist, is like, off chance I'm doing drums, I might need a little bit more compression, but I'm thinking of flipping those and getting some of the Shadow Hill stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah. Just because they look fancy. I've honestly not really recorded them much, and that's a stupid way to look at gear, but... Well, it's too colorful down there, man. I know. You need some gray. I'm not using them much, so I might as well put some other stuff if I find a good deal on something. It's funny, I always think about like the gear that I want to collect, and I always think about recording drums. I'm like, well, I need this for recording drums. I was even thinking years ago, or not years ago, but last year, thinking about getting a snake, because the drums were like 10 feet away from where I was, and thinking about all this thought. And then just last week I was recording drums in my attic, and I realized it had been 2 years since the last time I recorded drums.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't need all this stuff for recording drums.
My mentality with drums is, and why the studio is set up the way it is that right now I have compromised on absolutely nothing for doing overdubs and like smaller sound sources to the best I could possibly think of. And that's within my budget. But to do drums with zero compromise is going to cost you upward of $100,000 at least.
Yeah.
You're going to have way more mics, way more quality preamps, way more awesome compression. So my thought with that is, I'll just pay $600 or $800 to go to someone else's studio that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, do that with no compromise, then come here and finish the record.
I'm convinced of that. I'm convinced of that because, you know, I might have a couple great pre's and a couple great mics, but when you're talking about 12 channels or 16 channels, I do not have all of that. Like, you know, like
a lot of people buy the little, like, you know, I could have got very easily a 4-channel API and a 4-channel Vintech, and to some extent I would be doing drum tracking justice there, but then there's really, I might just be filling all these racks with stuff that I only use very rarely, and I'm not doing drums in here that much.
I realize too, it's like, not only that, it's like when you're paying $600 or $800 for the day, you're also paying for the expertise of somebody who knows the phasing issues that you're going to run into, even the room. Even just have, well, the room, the space, like it's a big room, and you end up getting an assistant, and you can get twice as much done. And you go home with a hard drive of 10 mics, 15 mics on a drum kit.
More than that,
much more, of course.
But yeah, I mean, that's my thought process with why this and this is all the way it is.
Yeah, it's really smart. I actually, just doing drums on a goofy track I was doing the other day, I realized I need to go to a studio like for drums. That was it for me, because there was some phasing issues, and my room is so small. I mean, it's like half the size of this and half the height of this. And it's like a room mic is not a room mic. You know, a room mic is...
Well, I find also that, like, at the outset of a project with a band, what I'll do is say, look, we'll do the whole record. This is what it'll cost. My studio's included. Limitless time, we'll just go until it's done. It doesn't include other studios, and we're not doing drums there. And what that does is, if I was trying to make drums in here work, I would be recording drums in here all the time. Whereas by going at it with that mentality, I can pick different rooms on their tonality, their gear available, how big the space is. It gives you way more freedom, and drums are like such a big part of a record. I wouldn't want to be in here every day making it work. You know?
Yeah, totally true. So real quick, we see some stuff. You're running off the Apollo, which is great. Is that an 8-channel?
4 preamps, 4 converters.
Right. So I have the same one, I think, the quad. And then we've got... you know what? We've talked about as much on there. Real quick, I want to talk about some of the plugins. Can we wake this guy here? So you're a big fan of the Slate stuff and the UAD stuff.
And honestly, SoundToys is just, I couldn't live without
that. I totally agree. For me, SoundToys is where like the creativity happens. You know what I mean? That's what I think is amazing. Is like you had.
Give it a second. It'll come to life.
That's a really crisp screen there.
Yeah, technology, man. You can buy a nice TV for like nothing these days. And also have a tape machine inside of it. It's crazy.
This is how they did in the old days, folks who are watching at home. They have a LCD, LED.
Yeah, this will be old school one day. I wonder what the new school will be 20 years from now.
You know what? I think all of our kids will be like, "Hey, man, where can I get a plasma screen? I want to."
Yeah, they're just wearing
do
glasses.
It like my dad did.
Yeah, it's like VHS players or something.
I lost my train of thought now.
Plugins.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the SoundToys stuff. No doubt about it. First of all, their bundle is a great bargain. It's like $500 or something.
Well, they're awesome.
Everything.
Like, also, they do this thing during the holidays, or I can't remember when they did it, but every couple weeks you could get one for free.
Yeah.
And every one of those that you grabbed took $50 off the bundle price.
I know.
By the time I got to buying the bundle, it was like $150.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
and it is worth so much. Because
Totally.
Decapitator, obviously, but like, I saw you had Echo Boy on a drum.
Oh yeah,
and
effects like that and little altar.
it just
boy
recreates
and
the drum part. That's what's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it creates a new drum part.
Totally.
I've been into the crystallizer lately too.
Oh, that thing's crazy.
It's really crazy.
It scares the shit out of me. I've never
You can
used it.
basically take like a vocal
Yeah.
or a guitar and turn it into a synth.
Or something wild. Yeah.
And it's unpredictable.
It's terrifying to me.
What do you like up here? What kind of stuff do you go to?
I overuse this probably, but in the
I see
digital,
your punish buttons on.
always usually.
Man.
But in the analog, I mean the digital world, like you don't get the same kind of saturation and stuff that you would other ways. I find that my ear craves it. It like craves like
bit of
thick
grain,
saturation-iness
yeah.
more than it craves heavy compression.
Yeah.
So I'll often throw this on and just change the mix up a bit or back bus through it.
It does compress things a little bit though, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's like squishing things in a like
I don't even know
gross,
what
cool
the
way.
meter is, attitude. Like, I don't even understand what it's doing.
I don't know. It should be in the red, I know that.
The tape machine below it, what's this? The UAD one?
Oh, this thing's awesome, man. It's,
they have a couple.
Yeah, Ampex ATR 102, whatever, and
Well,
on the mix bus, sounds amazing.
What's the difference between the VTM and that for you?
This one has a couple different tape options. I find that it does more in a good way.
Right.
Whereas with the Slate, I love it most of the time.
Yeah.
But it does kind of do one thing. You can play with your input and output a bit, but sometimes it blows your bottom end weird. And
Okay.
But it really is great sound. I use it on drum bus most of the time.
Yeah, okay. Do you use it on individual tracks? Do you use any tape on individual tracks?
No, they all sort of, I find that tape machines sometimes put noisy stuff. Or I just wouldn't,
okay.
My brain doesn't go there.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But
have to
sometimes
try
I'll use
this.
it. Sometimes I'll use it to like. There's a Waves one, and no, the Waves ones you can turn this warbly feature up and make things sound degraded, and then like stack those up and make stuff sound horrible.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Yeah, no, it's. Have you heard my favorite plugin right now? I'm surprised you didn't mention at the beginning is Wow Control from Goodhertz.
No,
it is a tape emulator. So it's interesting because like with the VTM, you can't do like fun, like lo-fi stuff with the VTM, and I'm sure that's the same with the Ampex. It's about getting that thick saturation.
You can blow their tape machine out, and it sounds pretty cool. But I use it on the master because it just like makes things punchier and wider and fatter and louder.
Well, I got
all the cool things.
I got to show you this Wow Control, but it's basically like you can get warble. You can make it sound like it's like an old cassette that you left in like the back window of your car.
Right.
And it's to me, it's a creative stuff. Like especially for synth, when you play synth and then you add that kind of sound. It's I'll show it to you when we shut the cameras off. But it's a beauty plugin.
Yeah, always nerdy hanging out.
Yeah, that's
so nerdy, man.
If you're not buying a plugin after hanging out with an engineer friend, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I got to write down that thing that they had.
Soothe.
That one? Soothe, yeah.
That's what you got to check out.
And then they showed us a compressor at Union, like a physical unit that he was talking about. Going crazy, but I'll have to check the footage. Anyway, Fab Filter is like,
utility.
That needs to come with Pro Tools. Pro Tools needs to buy. I mean, that...
Just the best utility EQ ever.
You can't...
I can't push play on this stuff, right? But
yeah, that's right. There's sometimes it's like what I find with Fab Filter. I'm so used to it now that if I have another EQ, I need to put Fab Filter after it so I can see what's happening because I'm just so dependent on that visualization.
The one thing about it that scares me is that.
Okay.
Because
you think you make tweaks based on your eyes?
Yeah, I don't want to mix with my eyes, but sometimes like if I hear something that's hurting, like I mean, it's always like that 2K range, but I can see exactly where it is and carve it out.
Yeah.
I use Fat Labs Pro Cube to doctor stuff a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas like for typical, like if I had a controlled source that sounded good already, I wouldn't go straight for that to, brighten it up or anything like that. It's more like if there's spots that are hurting, I'll doctor the sound with it.
But I find like if I've thrown it something on a bus or on the mix bus, I start to make decisions based on it. It's like, oh,
I mean, I was trying to show you this feature. I'll just turn the volume.
Yeah, you can turn the volume
There's
down.
this thing that it does. I don't even know if you know this, but somebody showed me this and it blew my mind. But if you're playing it, right, and you see all this stuff going on, if you hold your mouse here, it holds the peaks.
Yeah.
And you can see exactly which frequencies you hate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And then you can like grab them and pull, oh shit, that's not it. Wait, but you can like grab the frequency and pull, shit.
Oh,
anyway,
you have to grab the white part or something?
Yeah,
okay.
You can like pull them down.
Well, another, I mean, there's a lot of tweaks to it. My buddy showed me recently the mid-side part to it as well.
Yeah.
You probably have it on a mono track right now, but yeah. So you can make tweaks to the middle or to the sides.
Totally, it's super
great.
Super useful plugin. It's the best mix tool.
I love it. Let's talk mics.
Sure.
The last time we were here, we did this cool thing where we pulled out like your 2 staple microphones. Today we're bringing out an Aston as well, just because we want to talk about it. I knew you were getting a pair before we were here. Before we go to this guy, talk to me about these 2 mics here, because I mean both these mics I'd give an arm for.
Yeah.
But
I kind of had to.
The Coles.
Fleet 47.
Okay. Yep.
Super awesome mic.
Yep.
It's ripping off the Neumann or Telefunken 47. It does a really, really good job of it. I think the 2 probably main ones I would think are the
Wonder.
Yeah, the Wonder.
Yep.
The Wonder and the Flea are kind of, I think, the upper level of 47 clones. Yep. And
I've heard that.
It does a good job. I mean, every 47 sounds different. So I think if you mix this in with a bunch of 47's original ones, you might not notice it. You might.
And this is for vocals?
I do vocals with it a lot.
Yeah.
Acoustics.
Is it good? Acoustics are good?
Yeah, it's
Do you use a ribbon on acoustics? I see a lot of guys do that.
I would probably go for the Bayer M160 for an acoustic guitar before the Coles, but maybe even the Coles. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a Cloudlifter, so which is it gives you a bunch of clean gain on dynamics and ribbons, so I could try it, I guess.
Why do you need a Cloudlifter? I see a lot of people doing that. Why can't the Neve give you enough?
My X73s do have tons of gain, and the APIs are hot, even just with with the gain off, they're already super hot, so I don't actually use the Cloudlifter a whole lot.
Okay.
But it's super clean gain, so if you're
going direct into the Apollo, maybe?
Well, like with any of these pieces of gear, there's a noise floor in them, so when you jack the gain up, you can get like noise from the actual unit itself.
Oh, okay.
So if you do have that issue, that's why Cloudlifter is super useful, because it'll give you like plus 10 or 20 dB of clean gain.
Right. Okay.
Which means you're running the pre's lower. And brings your noise down.
Yeah.
I think. Technically, I think that's what it's supposed to be. I'm just saying things, though, honestly.
No, I've always been curious, because I just thought, man, like the great preamps have a ton of gain.
Yeah.
I'm just curious why that's such a popular thing now.
Honestly, I have a bunch of great mics that are great for most applications, so I don't find myself making mics that aren't suited for the source work often. I usually just go for a mic that works for it.
And that's what I love about this place too. And I think there are some new stuff, but just the idea that, you know, a lot of guys will spread out all 200 of their mics. Yeah. And who knows what gets used, but it's like, this is iconic. You see this, I mean, this is ridiculously expensive, and you see them.
It's my favorite mic. Like drums, it's amazing how like a purchase like this, I basically bought it because I love it on drums so much, and I honestly don't use it a whole lot unless I'm doing horns or drums, really.
Yeah.
So I bought this mic basically as a drum mic, but I've taken it to studios for drum sessions, and it's the foundation of my drums.
Is that right? Whereabouts?
Just like a mono drum, like mono front of kit.
Really?
Just so well balanced, and it takes all the harshness out of the cymbals and everything. I can crank it up so high in the mix, and it just sounds
I see a lot of guys use them as overheads too.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was at Union, I had Coles 4038 overheads, front of kit, mono room. Oh man! And just like everything was like silky.
I love that sound too. I love that dark, not shimmery sound.
Totally.
Tapey sound.
Totally.
That's awesome. So do you use it much in here? Do you use it on electrics?
I haven't thrown it on an electric guitar. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but I haven't done many guitars in here.
Oh, okay.
It's like weird. But yeah, I would try throwing it on electric guitar probably, or I did trumpet and sax with it a while back. It was awesome. I could see it being pretty cool for an acoustic guitar, or I mean, it's really just about the source and what the mix needs. And
so you had like one of everything. The greatest hits of '57, SM7. There's the
421.
421. The 47 here. What was the need for the Astons? Had you just been hearing about them, or?
I heard really good things about them, and then I was actually torn between a pair of KM184s, Neumann,
right?
Or because I needed a stereo pair of something in case I needed to do drums or a stereo
something.
Anything.
Yeah, totally.
These guys fell in the same sort of price bracket. They're about $550 each Canadian. Like they're so cheap, it's crazy. And they look fucking awesome.
They're cool.
But they sound so good. It's crazy.
Can I take it out?
Sure. Yeah.
And this is the shock mount that it comes with, right?
No, that's separate.
Oh, okay.
They're the Roy Coat.
Oh, but they are like sponsored, or
same company, I think, but you have to buy this separately.
Yeah.
This thing actually comes with this weird non-adjust, so you can screw it into a stand, but I was like, oh, that's almost useless.
Useless, I know.
So like, what if I tap the stand? It's
you're right. Well,
straight into the
there's
mic.
actually a built-in shock mount in these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the windscreen.
Wow, you know more about this microphone than I do.
No, I don't. But I have the Origin. I got one used.
No polar patterns.
For like $200. Yeah, no polar patterns. But
does it have a pad or a roll-off?
It does, both,
right.
yeah.
But there's no polar patterns.
Yeah,
like
and it actually, I think, is only like -20 or -1. I don't think it's both options.
They both sound awesome, apparently. So
yeah, they're great, and apparently they are relatively the same. It's just the polar patterns are.
I mean, it's the same with. This is actually the Flea 47 Next, which is slightly cheaper just because it doesn't have polar pattern selection.
Oh,
and
not on the power supply?
No polar patterns. It's just cardioid, but I'm using it for a source. I primarily bought it as a vocal mic, or, I would probably never have used it in Omni or Figure 8 anyway.
Right.
So.
These guys are really interesting. I mean, they do sound amazing. They look cool. They're brand new, and they're just everyone's just picking up one. I think it's a great. I never thought of that. Like $1,000 to get a really good quality stereo pair.
I got a stereo mounting bar and all that. So if I have to do overheads or any sorts like that.
Yeah.
But even like they're bright, present, very present.
So they posted on their website how it survived a gas explosion.
Oh yeah,
Did you see that?
Yeah, the guy's studio burnt down, and he was recording.
Let's try that. The cameras are here. Let's try
the place down.
And the pizza oven.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, sounds great.
You might get an endorsement.
My hopes and dreams just burning. But in that video, he's recording his voice with the Aston, talking about how this microphone survived this gas explosion and studio fire. Nothing else
Incredible.
survived.
Well, it's kind of cool because like, how many times do you drop a mic, you know? Like,
I mean, it looks like the condenser equivalent of a 57 to me, where I wouldn't hesitate to use a 57 as a hammer. Like, I could probably do that.
You probably could. Well, I saw a guy, I didn't shoot for the shock mount, but I definitely need one because you're right, it's useless on a stand. But I did see a guy, and so I copied him, who had a gooseneck. He bought one of those $6.
Oh, the...
Yeah. And so I screwed it on, and it was a great idea, but I feel like now it's starting to lose its like strength a little bit, and so it's just drooping over everything. But that's a good idea.
Yeah, you can even buy like a generic like Apex guy, I'm sure. I bought it through Studio Economic. My friend Mark Capofari works there, and he hooked up a deal. And guy.
They're great. Well, man, I'm so glad we could come back. If we were going to lose the SD card on any studio, it had to be here. Well, come on now. We have a lot of fun doing this. We'll come back in 4 months. We'll see the stam and whatever else you get new. But no, I really love this place. And I do say that to most studios, but this has stuck in my mind in the last like 6 months as like the kind of the backyard studio. It's the dream of everyone, you know.
For a producer guy, for sure.
Yeah, and anybody, especially myself, it's like project studio just for me. Like that dream of feeling like you're still in a real studio. Yeah. But it's really just your space.
It's been great, man.
Yeah, it's cool, and it has a great vibe. This is cool. Is this from the Titanic?
I feel like it should have been. Yeah. But it's all about that cabin vibe. I'm like tennis rackets and old things. I go to these antique barns, and I've suddenly gone from like a hip young guy to just an old curmudge.
This is Grandpa's studio.
Totally, like I want all the
So
old
this is
things.
called Cabin.
The Cabin Recording.
The Cabin Recording. And last time you were here, you were reluctant to join social media, but now you're on.
Yeah, I'm on.
So we'll provide all the links for that.
Cool.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You got a great space.
Stoked to have you guys here.
All right. Thanks, man.
Boom.